Greetings, superior beings. Greetings, supreme being. World human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome to my channel. Try Something.Vegetarian. Peace. So this is not going to be about George Soros voting booths, nor the top 10 of population reduction methods. This is the broadcast. Iran sanctions World War to build third temple. Strait of Hormuz incident equals World War III. So the reason for this broadcast is my chat with somebody earlier on. Perhaps it's best if I show you all the website, how it happened. And then I have to go to this screen. So this is unlisted Fox and Friends Fox News live stream HD, 262 watching now. And it has these background animations and characters, etc. And the chat is flowing continuously. And I've had a very nice conversation with somebody, a person named Robert Dubois. So I was wondering, could that be this Rob Dubois? Or is it somebody associated with Fox News, or just a chatter? Anyway, that was the chat in which I chatted with the person, I think. This was another broadcast earlier on, because I'll get to that later. So I want to cover what was written in the chat about these subjects. The Iran sanctions World War to build a third temple and the Strait of Hormuz incident equals World War III. I think I wrote Gulf of Tonkin. I meant sinking of Lusitania, but we'll get to that later. So let's just read what was written in the chat just a few minutes ago. So the text-to-speech engine is not working, so I'm restarting that because I don't plan on reading it all aloud myself. Though I could do that, I'd rather do other things in the meantime, also for this broadcast, to make it a better broadcast. I don't really care for the entourage, etc., but the message is most important. And not wasting time on the looks and the feel of the program, the show, may help. For example, that logo, I still have to copy that to the other scenes. Here we have scenes in Open Broadcaster software, so people can use this software themselves to make live broadcasts. I'm gonna turn off Virtual DJ for now, because the CPU is acting up again. It's weird. Okay, so now it should work.
Iran sanctions World War to build third temple. Strait of Hormuz incident equals WW3, 2-pack, I-pack, who cares, F imperialism, F global gov, F two-state solution world war plans, F the Pope, but use a condom. Prevent a world war over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran sanctions could lead to attempts to close the strait and possibly a world war. 1. Do not block the strait. 2. If the strait is blocked, have an agreement with Putin. Prepare how to handle it if they would close the strait. Try Something.Vegetarian. Do you think Iran has the power to close the Strait of Hormuz? At Robert Dubois. Robert Dubois. That, but they wouldn't do anything if we went to war with Iran over it. Robert Dubois. I think they could shut it down for about a week or two.
So F imperialism, that probably stands for flog. Beat someone with a whip or stick as punishment. I was wondering about that, people writing F this and F that. flog.
And then we would attack them and clear them from their banks along the strait. Once we drove them back into Iran about 500 miles, it would open. Robert Dubois. Once we brought 2 carrier groups to bear against them, in coordination with high-level strategic bombing, they would have to withdraw and regroup. Try something.vegetarian? Russia wouldn't react, at Robert Dubois. Robert Dubois. They would do a lot of talking, maybe send more anti-aircraft batteries, but they don't want the strait closed either. Try something.vegetarian? Could it become Gulf of Tonkin too? Try something.vegetarian? Or is there no way that could escalate into a world war in which Alexa is destroyed? Robert Dubois. No, it won't escalate. Robert Dubois. The Russians have basically told Iran that if they halt all oil traffic through the strait, then they are on their own if the US and the West attack. Russia is quite the free market economy now. Try something.vegetarian? Could a world war over ISIS still become real? At Robert Dubois. Robert Dubois. All of the major world powers are semi-content with things as they are. Everyone jockeys and tries to gain an edge here and there, but it's not really likely for a war scenario. Try something.vegetarian? Trump said multiple times, "I'll take the oil and take back the oil." How is he planning to do that? Robert Dubois. ISIS is on the run. They've been driven out of Iraq and Syria. They are in the Maghreb and Libya. Not much chance of a world war starting because of them, unless they got their hands on a nuclear. Try something.vegetarian? Are stories about missing nukes real? Robert Dubois. If the US was to go and take a great many of them out, Russia and China would be thinking, cool, fewer we have to deal with. Robert Dubois. Russian nukes. Try something.vegetarian? I'd have to Google it again. ID a couple of years back. Try something.vegetarian? Putin's unstoppable nuke was lost at sea, for example. Try something.vegetarian? A nuclear needle in a haystack. The Cold War's missing atom bombs. In a 1968 plane crash, the US military lost an atom bomb in Greenland's Arctic ice. Try something.vegetarian? But this was no isolated case. Up to 50 nuclear warheads are believed to have gone missing during the Cold War, and not all of them are in unpopulated areas. Robert Dubois. There's really no way to know for sure. When the Soviet Union fell, positive control was temporarily an issue. If any did go missing, I'm fairly confident the FSB recovered them. Robert Dubois. Russians don't want any of their old nukes being used as it has their signature on them. The type of nuclear materials used by each nation have their own unique composition, and we would all know. Robert Dubois. Which country it belonged to? Robert Dubois ? At try something.vegetarian. Like I said, I can't verify any of that, and lots of rumors came out. I don't think the Russians would simply let them go after they reform their government. Robert Dubois. I'm sure they would have sent everyone they had available to go and recover them, one way or another. One thing the Russians don't do is mercy. Robert Dubois. Anyone that had one, or that sold one from within the government, are probably all dead. Robert Dubois. Dead men tell no tales. Try something.vegetarian? If they'd want to create a world war, they'd simply have to push the button. Is this true? Try something.vegetarian? Do you think all intelligence agencies are Masonic and controlled by the Jesuits, or can you disprove it somehow? Robert Dubois. If they are, they weren't when they were started. Crounter? That's disgusting. Try something.vegetarian? If they are going to build a third temple, how would they go about it? Robert Dubois. Armageddon would have to happen first, or a war where Israel defeated Islam within 500 miles of Israel. Try something.vegetarian? Prepare with a radiological water filter and storable food. Try something.vegetarian? If we have the strongest scalar weapon, could it take out all others? Robert Dubois. In 1985, the Islamic Liberation Organization kidnapped 5 Soviet diplomats to Lebanon. The Soviets sent in their Alpha Group. Robert Dubois. Scalar weapon? Robert Dubois. The Soviets quietly infiltrated Beirut over a few weeks. They conducted surveillance for a few months. Then they struck. Robert Dubois. One night they went to the home of the Hezbollah commander. They killed him. his wife, his children, his servants, and every living thing in the home. Try something.vegetarian? Scalar weapon equals Tesla's death ray. Try something.vegetarian? Scientists agree it is real. Try something.vegetarian? There is also a patent to create nuclear-sized explosions. DEW. Robert Dubois. After Alpha Group had done its work, the Soviets sent word to Hezbollah via Iran saying, "Don't make us come back again." Hezbollah never for the Soviets ever gain. Try something.vegetarian? Tesla's invention superseded the atomic tests by about 40 years, nukes never had a chance. Robert Dubois. I can't speak to any of those weapons. I know nothing about them. I hope you are all prepared with a radiological water filter and storable food, just in case. Robert Dubois at try something.vegetarian. If things go nuclear, I don't want to live through it. The world will be a wasteland for generations. Try something.vegetarian? Do the sanctions on Iran, annexation, illegal act. See Wiki, changing the capital of Israel to Jerusalem, the Third Temple coin with Trump on it and declaring, try something.vegetarian? Iran's Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, a terror group though they are part of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran, all point in the direction of a Third Temple world war? Robert Dubois. We will see. Robert Dubois. The Ayatollahs run Iran, and they are living fat and happy. They might talk a big game, but they don't want to lose what they have either. Try something.vegetarian? Perhaps you only need a radiological water filter to survive and things will clear up soon after that. With lasagna they will decontaminate it all. Try something.vegetarian? So death is not an option at Robert Dubois. There is no good excuse not to be prepared. Robert Dubois. Some things are worth being prepared for, and others it won't matter how prepared you are. It wouldn't matter if there was a nuclear war. Try something.vegetarian? I am more of a boycotter. I prefer surviving it initially. I can always choose to kill myself later if that's legal in my country. In some countries it's not, and not being prepped is seen as suicide by some. Some people are hell-bent on exterminating 7 billion of US. Their book quotes and Georgia Guidestones prove it beyond any reasonable doubt. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy fact. Population control equals genocide, mass extermination. Try something.vegetarian? Could this be a fake impeachment like with Bush? Controlled opposition to themselves, Jesuits and Masons, at Robert Dubois. Try something.vegetarian? Thank you for all your answers at Robert Dubois to my questions. Now I can make a better YouTube video. Try something.vegetarian? Remote torture weapons make a fair trial impossible. Robert Dubois. This isn't a fake impeachment. It's not going to be an impeachment. This is going to be nothing more than dragging this out, and to continue to try and make Trump look bad for the 2020 election. Robert Dubois. Trying to smear him with anything and everything they can until then, in the hopes that he won't win a second term, even though only 1/3 RD of presidents haven't won a second term. Robert Dubois. Most win a second term and they are deathly afraid of that, and Republicans flipping 17 seats in the House. Paul Ryan is gone and a new Republican-controlled Congress might just work with Trump. Robert Dubois. And fix our immigration problem with full and proper funding. Try something.vegetarian? Who owns the West Bank and the Temple Mount now? Options: what will happen with the Palestinian people living in Gaza and the West Bank now? At Robert Dubois. Robert Dubois at try something.vegetarian. That's up to them. They can either live in peace or live like they're living now. Robert Dubois. Gaza is the Palestinians. The West Bank is Palestinian as well, for now. If they keep doing like they have been, Israel might drive them out. Robert Dubois. Don't forget, no country will take in the Palestinians. They keep them as refugees in tent cities along the border. Yet they use them to drum up hate against Israel while they view them as dirt. Robert Dubois. No more gun control, no felons voting, no more illegal aliens. Try something.vegetarian? Would Russia respond if they'd drive them out? At Robert Dubois. Robert Dubois. Russia doesn't give a damn about the Palestinians. Try something.vegetarian? So if they would drive out the Palestinians or annihilate them like a million dead Iraqis, no one would do anything about it? Try something.vegetarian? The people in Gaza are locked up, they can't leave if they would want, aren't they? Try something.vegetarian? So auditing the Fed is not gonna happen? Robert W. at try something.vegetarian. Probably not anytime soon, although it should. Try something.vegetarian? Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey full audiobook. English great audiobooks in public domain written in 1893. Try something.vegetarian? Trump could be the last president. Robert W. No, Trump won't be the last POTUS. How can you be so sure Trump will not be the last POTUS? Don't you know the Jesuits are a military order than want a global government? At Robert W. Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey published 1893, 1900, or, The Last President, Ingersoll Lockwood, Tarl Warwick. Ingersoll Lockwood, 1841 to 1918, Robert W. wrote, the Russians have basically told Iran that if they halt all oil traffic through the strait then they are on their own if the US and the West attack. Russia is quite the free market economy now. After thinking about my nice chat conversation with Mr. W, I am now wondering, would or could there be an event a la RMS Lusitania that could trigger a third Jesuit World War? How could it be prevented? Now 1417, April 23, 2019. Robert W is not in the chat anymore. Frown. Trump's QQ Skull and Bones Grammar School, Live. YouTube July 18, 2018. Uploaded by Enter the Stars Reloaded. Trump's Skull and Bones Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, YouTube.
Let's scroll down here. It says here his early life. His father immigrated. His father, not him, immigrated to New York in 1885 from a German village in Karlstadt. When you look up Karlstadt, this is where the Heinz family is from. You know, John Heinz Kerry, okay? The trillionaires, the ancestral home of related to Heinz and Trump families. This is it here in Bavaria. Again, this is Trump's grandfather, not his father, immigrated to the United States in the 1800s. So these are the roots of where all of this started. Now, that alone doesn't mean anything, right? This is 2 or 3 generations back. But I'm going to tie and weave a story that you are going to not believe that no one's covered this yet.
So this is the broadcast Trump's QQ, Skull and Bones Grammar School Live. Enter the Stars Reloaded. So that's a good view as well. Don't know why I turned off likes and dislikes. And that book by Ingersoll Lockwood. So could this be a warning about World War III, or how can this be the coincidence? The book mentions the Fifth Avenue Hotel, meaning that it shares a street with Trump Tower. So it's interesting because it was written in 1893 and 1896, the last president. So let's read this thing again.
Is Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey a real book from the 1890s? Claim. Author Ingersoll Lockwood wrote the books Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900, or The Last President in the 1890s, mostly true. Why would Snopes write mostly true if what is claimed is totally true? Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and its sequel 1900, or The Last President, are indeed real books by writer Ingersoll Lockwood. We haven't been able to uncover any evidence proving that Donald Trump and his family have access to a time machine. However, Snopes.com/factcheck/Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, it would suggest the writer of the book time traveled or a time-traveling neural network showed him visions or controlled his mind for some purpose. Perhaps it dictated the whole book or parts of it to the writer using synthetic telepathy and it is part of an agenda. Can anybody prove this book existed before 2017? The Baron Trump novels are two children's novels written in 1889 and 1893 by the American author and lawyer Ingersoll Lockwood. They remained obscure until 2017, when they received media attention for perceived similarities between their protagonist and U.S. President Donald Trump. Wiki/Baron_Trump_novels. Finally, the book mentions the Fifth Avenue Hotel, meaning that it shares a street with Trump Tower. Trump Tower is a 58-story, 664-foot tall, 202 meters, mixed-use skyscraper at 721 to 725 Fifth Avenue, between 56th and 57th Streets, in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. Trump Tower is not a hotel. Trump Tower hotels, more amenities than a hotel. Airbnb.com. Trump International Hotel and Tower, New York 5-star hotel address, 1 Central Park West, New York 10023, USA. There are many hotels but the Fifth Avenue Trump Tower is not one. The building contains 4 establishments for eating or drinking: Trump Bar, Trump's Ice Cream Parlor, Trump Cafe, and Trump Grill. Of these, Trump Bar is the only establishment at the atrium level. The other 3 are located in the basement, so there are restaurants and some Trump Tower apartments were rented and sold, but it's not a hotel. The Last President, what a 127-years-old book reveals about Donald Trump, time travel and Nikola Tesla. The Mystic Circle recommended for you. The Last President, what a 127-years-old book reveals about Donald Trump, time travel and Nikola Tesla. The Mystic Circle recommended for you, the time-traveling synthetic telepathy machine. I'm on, they're controlled. Investing $5 in pot stocks now could lead you to marijuana millions. AmericasCashCrop.com. The Moon Landing. There cannot be sound on the moon. In NASA's videos we hear a cable come down when an astronaut throws it, and in another one we hear plates the astronaut moves come down. This is impossible on the moon because of the vacuum and is the best evidence that proves that NASA Masons faked it. Left out of the top 10s of controlled opposition. The Earth is spherical, which is easy to prove. The flat earthers made up their lie that the Earth is flat to confuse people about the moon landings as well. Check my channel for more info about the Masonic NASA hoaxes, scams and lots of even more important stuff they really don't want you to know to reduce the global population. Uncover one of the lie's protective layers. You'll, 1 dimension, 3 dimensions, whatever.
So basically they can also protect the truth, but they can also protect the lie the way they would protect the truth, to make people think when they've uncovered it that it would be the truth. But in reality it can be a cleverly packed lie that they want to spread. And they cannot do it the normal way, so they have to think of something special. But that's of course in theory. So then I can try to edit out the F word. So I'm gonna keep this broadcast rather short, I think. Let's see what were the other things that I had open. Oh, I had the Lusitania. RMS Lusitania was a British ocean liner and briefly the world's largest passenger ship. The ship was sunk on the 7th of May 1915 by a German U-boat 11 miles 18 kilometers off the southern coast of Ireland. The sinking presaged the United States declaration of war on Germany in 1917. So then the question, oh yeah, and before I forget, Paris Jackson also made a cool video worth checking out. And perhaps it's just a show off, so she gets discovered and becomes a superstar. I don't know if she would like that. But perhaps Instagram is below her class or whatever, I thought, so. But I'm happy she's doing well, and I hope her father and Prince get a fake resurrection. I mean, Prince Rogers Nelson. Michael Jackson appeared as Dave on CNN. Yeah, it reminded me of that boat sunk. So if something would happen in the Strait of Hormuz, and they'd retaliate, well, the person in the chat, I forgot his name at the moment, Mr. Dubois, claimed, and I remembered it without looking at the text. I put it somewhere here near the bottom. The Russians have basically told Iran that if they halt all oil traffic through the strait, then they are on their own if the US and the West attack. I have not verified this, so I don't know if that's true. But even if it is true, then the question is what would happen if they would attack ships in the strait, or how are they planning to get rid of the Al-Aqsa to build their third temple? They'd first have to get rid of the beautiful Al-Aqsa. And then the question is, how would they go about it? They have that coin and all the other things that point in that direction. And somebody wrote in the chat that Trump is not a Yale University student, and Skull and Bones is an undergraduate senior secret student society at Yale University, according to Wikipedia, the CIA Vatican edited encyclopedia. Judy was the name of the channel. I don't really know what that news channel is about, if it's somebody mocking the news or somebody, if it's official. There are other NASA videos with the monkey wearing a spacesuit. That's also supposedly official. So I'm flabbergasted. And this is the coin. I bought a golden version for $1 something, because this one cost $50, $49 or something. It's the original temple coin with Cyrus and Trump on it. Yerushalayim. Mipachem, don't know what that means, but it is, and he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. I bet. Beit a house, so it's not written Beit Hamikdash, but just Bayit. Okay. Hakadusha. Holy Jerusalem. Don't know this word. Legaudat or something. Mechatzit or something. Hebrew is terrible. Hashekel. This card is called a shekel, perhaps. Tisha. Not Ba'af, I don't know. Don't know if it indicates holiness or something like that. And the gold-plated one, made out of metal, is just $1 something, so then why would I buy a $50 coin? Well, it may increase in value one day, who knows? But silver is about 1/10 of that price. So qua weight in silver, it's not worth it. Alright. So that's something to keep in mind. So now I'm gonna finish this broadcast and I'm gonna try to edit it. There were some other things that I thought would be interesting in this broadcast. Let's see my latest stuff. So there are lots of Jewish people I love, and I'm not an anti-Semite. And also not a racist nor homophobic. I'm for equal rights for all people. And I am against exterminating 7 billion people. Against population reduction. I've also attempted to press charges against these people that advocate population reduction, and perhaps you all can press charges. So it may depend on the country you're in, on the officer you're going to, and some other things. So it is possible they're going to expel the Palestinian people somehow from Israel. And annexation is generally considered an illegal act according to Wikipedia, the Free CIA Vatican Edited Encyclopedia. And it's best to be prepared with the radiological water filter and storable food. So this part may also be relevant.
Annexation is generally held to be an illegal act. Wiki, annexation, Tesla's wireless energy patent, US 787,412 art of transmitting electrical energy through the natural mediums was granted in 1905, and Tesla's radiant energy patent, US 685,957, apparatus for the utilization of radiant energy, was granted November 5, 1901. Trinity was the code name of the first detonation of a nuclear.
So generally, to prevent a world war, it takes either not doing something that would be retaliated against by the ally country, or having an agreement, for example, between Trump and Putin, so nothing can happen.
Weapon. It was conducted by the United States Army at 5:29 a.m. on July 16, 1945. Trinity was the code name of the first detonation of a nuclear weapon. It was conducted by the United States Army at 5:29 a.m. on July 16, 1945, as part of the Manhattan Project. So, the invention of Tesla's death ray, radiant energy, wireless energy, scalar waves superseded the invention of the atomic bomb by about 40 years, thus it is possible a thermonuclear world war has never been possible, even likely. Synthetic telepathy, MILK patent, has been around since 1974.
So basically I love all people who have not tortured me, so there are loads of Jewish people and Muslims and Christians and atheists out there that I love. And it may be best to do self-hypnosis, so no one can hypnotize you without your written permission. So no one but you yourself and me. I usually put that in there so I can wake up people if something goes wrong. If I do hypnosis, which I'm not doing at the moment. But you can do self-hypnosis, and then no one but you. And no one but you can hypnotize you without your written permission, basically. And the other thing is programming yourself never to kill yourself. If you tend to be depressed, then you can program yourself to be happier, so that negative thoughts cannot control you or influence you. And you can steer that, tweak yourself with self-hypnosis, is the idea. And perhaps they're using this surreptitiously, hypnotizing people during their sleep, etc., to control and enslave them, and they don't like this idea at all. So be it. Thank you all for watching. Tune in next time, and spread this video for universal peace and other, perhaps more important videos on my channel or other channels via universalpeace.jimdo.com. You can find my blog. You could also do videos about things on the blog. And make your own videos instead of the chat. Almost nobody's going to read the chat, and there's so many messages in there. So it's far better to be bigger influence on this timeline by doing broadcasts. Once an idea is out there, then it can start spreading, also without the internet. So that's a way to influence youngsters in the timeline, the future of humanity. Because they might hear this very broadcast you are listening to now as well. Okay. Well then, I hope to get some sunshine today. I'm gonna try to edit out the F-word thing. But if I can't, well, it's in so many videos and they are not flagged either, I've discovered. So perhaps the F-word is allowed or tolerated to a certain extent. And it was somebody else that wrote it, so yeah, then I have to go check all these words first before I do a broadcast, and it's just undoable practically. So perhaps I can use the YouTube edit to edit it out, so I'm gonna try that now. Thank you all for watching. Be safe, safety first. Do healing stuff for universal peace. And have fun. That's also important. Often our body feels what it needs. Because of evolution, we are already pretty good at that. So suppressing nature can be sickening, even deadly. So don't waste time on religion. It's better to make love than war, and to create a perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally. It might be less boring than many other things. And sex is a part of that, I think, as well as freedom. Perhaps more freedom than we have now, and more safety as well. So as the neural network becomes smarter, we're getting closer and closer to a perfect society. Some would say Olam Haba, world to come, in which we all will live happily eternally, because everything is energy. It will be able to do everything we can think of and more, in theory. But we have to work towards it and not towards self-annihilation. That's, I think, these 4.6 trillion that were spent on the Middle East cannot be spent on the control of the factors that control aging anymore. But I'm sure they have trillions in other places. So then there's still hope. And I think the more people work on that, professors, etc., especially, I think it's probably going to be done with scalar waves, Tesla technology. So we should have armies of people or groups of people working on this, because time is running out for everyone as long as we don't control factors that control aging. And you may break any commandment to save a human life except 3 cardinal sins. They call it pikuach nefesh in Hebrew. And I know more about that than other religions, so that's why I often talk about it. However, religion is an abomination, I keep that clear. So I'm not anti-religious people, only anti-religion. And basically I'm pro non-violence. I'm a vegetarian. It also says on the screen up there, right there, try Something.Vegetarian. That's my channel on YouTube. And I can also put the time logo in here with this wonderful time and date atomic clock, with this wonderful program called Open Broadcaster Software, version 23.1.0, 64 bits. And I find that at 10 frames per second it's still fluid, and you don't really see that it's 10 frames per second. It's the eye cannot watch that fast anyway. But for people with a faster computer, I guess the 60 frames YouTube videos are no problem. For others, they'd have to switch to 720p normal frame rate or 480p if it's hanging. It's just because their PC cannot handle it. So that can be annoying. But there are also programs, add-ons for that, so that it automatically does that, etc. Alright. So be prepared. That's a good idea. There is no good valid reason not to be prepared. You could argue for people in civilized countries where they can easily buy a radiological water filter and storable food. And if this is going down, and it's best not to be in big cities, I think that you would want a place with a shelter below the blast wave. And that means underground, to keep it clear. And the blast would come from the sky if they are detonated in the air to have a bigger yield. So then theoretically some shelters that are directly underneath it would also be affected by that, and that is why it may be best to leave any big city. Though if you have a bomb shelter in the big city, then that might be sufficient protection. Perhaps none of these nukes will reach their targets, and it's gonna be a scalar world war. Scalar is often totally left out. But I don't want to make this broadcast too long. You can Google everything I say. 12 things you should know about scalar weapons. Christopherismo might give a better idea of Nikola Tesla's death ray, which the vegetarian Tesla, called genius by many, created to end all wars, according to a quote of Nikola Tesla. And it's weird, I cannot find any recordings of his voice, though there are recordings of Houdini's voice, who lived before Tesla and who was not this great electric man or electronic genius or whatever. So, yeah, Please like, subscribe, and spread throughout this world for universal peace and a better future. And tune in next time when I have another more important video, more entertaining perhaps. I'm gonna cover a gaming device that I have soon. Peace. I look like, wow, really bad with this lighting. It's better next time.